One of the questions I get all the time is, how do I know if this rental is a scam or not, Jeannie? And there's a couple of things I want you to do if you're thinking about renting a property and you're a little bit nervous. One is I want you to research that address. So that just means run a Google search and see what all pops up with that address. You want to see, is it listed for rent on every site? That's a good sign. It's not a good sign when it's listed for rent on Craigslist and it's listed for sale on other sites. That can be a red flag, because typically if somebody's selling a house, they're not also renting a house. They're going to do one or the other. Another thing I want you to be totally scared of is when they're pressuring you to send them money before you've even seen the house. They'll tell you that there's so much demand. If you pay this amount of money, that will secure your place in line. That is a huge red flag. And a lot of times they're just going to take your money. So don't give people money before you even see the house. And definitely be very cautious giving anybody your bank account information, and they want you to send it through Venmo and Zelle and all that kind of stuff. Just be really careful with that. Another one I want you to be really cautious of is if they won't meet you at the property. So they're wanting to do everything online. They're wanting you to pay your security deposit before you've even seen the property. Now, this can be a problem for you, and I think sometimes you're targeted if you don't live in the area, because you really can't visit the property when you're trying to do a rental and you live outside of the area. So you really have to be much more cautious. And one of the things I would recommend, if that is what you're doing, is you're trying to move here so you can't go visit the property, is I would say, well, I want you to FaceTime with me while you're at the property. So you want to make sure that that person actually can get into the property and show you the property, not just send you photos, because a lot of times what they're doing is a house is up for sale, so they're taking those photos and they're creating a rental site and taking people's money. Now, if you can visit in person and you go visit the house, another thing I want you to do is look at the sign that's in the yard and make sure it matches who's showing you the house. Like, if you go to a house and it has my sign in the yard, but somebody else is showing you the house, then call that agent that's got the sign in the yard and say, what's going on? Because like I said, we do not see many houses right now that are for rent or for sale. They're going to be one or the other. And then lastly, I would say really trust your instincts, because if you have a bad feeling about it, it's probably a scam. And then lastly, I want to just remind you that the qualifications for most rentals really match the qualifications for a lot of the mortgages. So if you're kind of on the fence and you think it's easier to get into a rental, it may not be easier to get into a rental versus buying. And if you're renting, you give up three main things to me. If you're renting, you're not building any equity. So when you move out of that rental, you're not going to make any money. Number two is you don't have any control or stability. I talk to people all the time whose rent has gone up significantly, or the landlord has decided to sell the property and they have nowhere to go, where when you lock into a home payment through a 30-year mortgage, your payment, your principal and interest will not change for the life of that loan. All that can change is your property taxes, and they do go up and down, but they do not go up and down like rental prices do. The other thing that you lose out on if you're renting versus buying is just a little bit more of that feeling, I own this home, it's mine, and that can have some great benefits.